In a town brimming with history and untold stories, people often ask me, are there more hidden tales about Huntington Beach? Are there secrets yet to be uncovered? Of course there are. So join me, Chris Epting, an author with a fervent appetite for the unknown, as we delve into the historic secrets of Huntington Beach. Get ready to uncover more hidden secrets of this coastal gem in Hidden Huntington Beach, Season 6. Built in 1913, the Dr. George A. Shank House originally boasted an ocean view. In 1927, it was relocated from its initial site at Pacific Coast Highway and 10th Street to its current location on 5th Street and Walnut Avenue during the oil boom years when numerous homes were moved from the expanding oil fields of the city. Dr. Shank was among the first medical practitioners in Huntington Beach Township. As a country doctor, Shank treated a wide range of cases, from gunshot wounds resulting from a dispute over a woman at a local cannery to injuries sustained in an accident at the Holly Sugar Factory, where a worker dropped a pipe on his foot. He famously kept a tack in his office that he had removed from a 7-year-old boy who had swallowed it a year prior. It is fitting that the bungalow now serves as a facility for the city's police department, given that Dr. Shank was instrumental in financing the city's first city hall and jail complex, located just a short distance away at 218 and 220 5th Street. The original windowless brick jail cells with their iron sliding doors can still be seen in the alley behind 5th Street. The architect behind the Shank House, British-born Frederick Harry Ely, was the first registered architect in Orange County. He is credited with designing around 125 buildings in the area, 2 of which are listed in the National Register of Historic Places, including the Huntington Beach Gym and Pool. Dr. George Shank passed away in May 1930 after dedicating 3 decades to the development of Huntington Beach Township. His wife, Cora, played a key role in organizing the Women's Club in Huntington Beach and was a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution. Cora passed away less than a year later. Following the sale of their home, the property operated as a boarding house. In 1991, John Penner of the LA Times reported that rumors have persisted for years that the new police outlet at one time housed a brothel, a popular speculation surrounding several historic buildings in Huntington Beach, likely stemming from the raucous days of the oil boom that began in 1920. Captain, I have to tell you, this is a building I've always wanted to come inside. I've never been inside here. This is the famous Shank House, which was originally owned by a very well-known doctor locally, George Shank. House is built in 1913 over on 10th and Coast Highway. It wasn't called that back then. It would have been Ocean Boulevard, I believe, back then. Then it's moved here in the 1920s. You've got a history here yourself. It becomes a police substation in the early 90s, and you started here in what year?
I started here in December of 92.
92, yes. So you've been here almost the entire time. You're part of living history here. What are some of your more vivid memories of being here, some of the more tense or dramatic moments you've experienced where we are right now?
Yeah, I remember, some of the mini rides we had back in the early mid-90s down here. We would bring people in here to get processed, and when we arrested them, get processed, booked, and then we would
right here,
right where we're standing. And then there was times also even during COVID when we had the protests down here, Main and PCH, where we would bring people back here, and there was actually a time also where we got surrounded by some of the protesters. And
what did you have to do that day?
Well, we had to kind of negotiate our way out. We had to. It was a little tense for a while.
And then I know we're going to wander and explore a little bit right now. You've got an original artifact around the corner that you've repurposed today for your needs. Why don't you show us? We'll take us back and explore a little bit.
Come on back.
So, Captain, it looks like there's an original bench here that has been repurposed. Talk a little bit about what would happen right where we are right now.
Yeah, so this is a bench that we would use for basically temporary detention of anyone that we would arrest downtown. We could bring them back here, and as you can see, you can seat probably 3 or 4 people on here if you needed to.
And you've done that?
We've done that, sure, yeah. And then we would, use the handcuffs just to, handcuff them in place.
All right, so let's just say, for the sake of argument, I've done something bad out there. I've been dragged in here. I come, you make me sit down here. What's the next move from your standpoint?
Yeah, and then we would just basically take the handcuff you to the bench, and then the officers could be out here doing their paperwork and getting you processed. And you're not going anywhere.
And you have keys to get me out of here.
Well, I'm going to have to call somebody.
Upstairs, these are the offices, right? In the bedrooms, what used to be the bedrooms.
Right, so yeah, what we're standing in now is probably one of 4 bedrooms that have all been repurposed to offices up here. This particular room is used for our sergeant who's in charge of our footbeat. There's another office that's also utilized by a sergeant for the downtown patrol unit. And then we have 2 others that are utilized for our downtown patrol officers that are assigned down here, and our homeless task force officers, as well as our school resource officers.
And it's interesting because nothing's really changed. I mean, all the wood is original. You look at all the moldings on the closets and the doors and everything. And it wasn't like this was gutted and then turned into a police station. You're just sort of using what's here. It feels very warm and homey when you come up the stairs and hold the original railings. It's interesting. I wouldn't equate this kind of structure with a police station.
Yeah, it's always nice to know that, Huntington Beach has always been a unique community, right? And a lot of private-public partnerships have always existed here, but it's always nice to know that people are really kind of embedded in the community. And even back then, there's a long, rich history of people kind of giving back to public service.
As we've stated earlier, the house is built in 1913. It's moved here in the 1920s, just a few blocks away. And over the decades, we know that it was used as a teacher's boarding house. There are rumors, kind of infamous rumors, about the building being used as a brothel. Have you heard about things over the years, myths, realities, things that speak to the history of the building?
It's funny, most of us just use this as a workspace, and while it's nice and we think of it, we don't really go back and deep dive into the history. But I assume that any of those stories could very well be true, but unfortunately we just don't have a whole lot of documentation for it.
It's fascinating to be standing in a place where, mentioning how sort of homey it still feels. I would imagine if a prisoner came in, it's got to feel kind of different too, that you're coming into like someone's home
Sure.
to get booked, which is kind of funny. But behind us in here, one of the former bedrooms, is a closet with like an original dresser in there. It's like taking a step back in time. Can you show us what that's like today?
Yeah, so this is obviously, probably original door handle, doorknob, and then
Amazing.
a closet that we rarely use for anything, but
This is like stepping back in time. I mean, you see like an original dresser, which is incredible. And now, speaking of finding little bits of hidden history like this, the true piece of hidden history is not on the second floor. It's actually underground. And you're going to take us down there right now. Someplace. Have you been down there yourself before?
no, first time.
All right, so this is going to be true hidden history. We are underneath the Shank House, the police substation today, and this gives you a sense of what it was like when this building was moved back in the 1920s. You can actually see the stilts the house was placed on back then, huh?
Right. I mean, it looks like you've got some, original flooring and whatnot here, and beams for the floor, and then stilts to where it was placed. And then obviously where we're standing now, it looks like they laid bricks down here and then have finished off some of this area for either storage or crawl space.
And obviously, I mean, it's been here for almost 100 years. They did a really good job.
Still
I mean,
here.
I'm going to say it's sustained earthquakes and things like that, and including the big 1933 quake, which, hit Huntington Beach hard. So it's fascinating to think about what it's been through down here, but it's all intact. We are a subterranean right now, kind of a basement set up here. And this is I didn't know this existed. And this is your first time down here?
First time down here, yeah.
Well, me too, and probably yours too as well. So thanks for revealing something that we would never have seen were we doing a hidden episode down here. So this is incredible.
Great, thanks.
The first.